David Lake Council's carry all that.
It was my true
I actually
thought.
had a client in
I
Marlboro
said,
that
no
had her
dumpster and
roof
his truck's in
stolen.
the driveway.
Weirdest
He just
insurance
moved
claim
it.
I've ever filed in my life. So she had like a big section of her roof that was all copper.
Yeah,
So they thought that they stole the whole
we
copper.
would vote to send it on.
Weirdest insurance claim I've ever had. She called me and I was like,
Won't
excuse
be
me.
here for that, but I'm assuming that.
No, we'll do the hearing.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
okay. Her neighbors didn't call because they just assumed she was getting it renovated. So they literally took all of it.
Let's see.
It was Puerto Rico.
Beautiful.
So jealous.
Hey, come on down.
We were going through a period of bad weather. We ready?
You're right.
Well, we call this meeting, good evening, everybody. Call this meeting in order at 6:34, it looks like. Could we start with the roll call, please?
Charlie Sinclair,
Here.
David Bounds,
Here.
Mike Delvecchio.
Here.
Edwin Moniz.
I'm here.
Sarah Jenna.
Here.
And Peter Burnett.
Right, thank you, and also here with us for staff is Rob Moore and Kalina Graham. Can we have a motion to approve the minutes from previous meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? And minutes carry. Yes, David, I know we don't need a motion. All right, it looks like, oh, first of all, a couple of announcements. If there's anyone here for the Cottonwood Avenue, that's been continued at the request of the applicant to the next meeting, the December meeting. It seems like, am I correct in assuming that a number of you are here for the Historic Overlay District? How many? Yeah, okay, so we're gonna move that up so that you guys don't have to sit around.
Very good, Dave.
Does that make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Very much.
Okay,
Hold on, we got a question here, Dick.
Sure.
Pete.
Excuse me, sir, maybe I misunderstood that the matter of the Taylor home in the Cottonwood, Walker Street area, is that not happening?
that's been continued, yes,
At whose request?
at the request of the applicant, the Taylor home,
Until December.
till the next meeting, which would be in December 3rd.
I should have caught you. My apologies.
I talked to you Tuesday. and
I didn't know about it till today.
Yeah, they just did it today.
that Information made public, and how?
It was just made public tonight, sir.
Is there anybody else in the room that's interested in that issue?
I was here for that, but I'll be back in December.
As will I.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your understanding. Okay, as I was saying, looks like we're gonna move, where are we? Item 9.1, oh, 9.1, yes, the proposal to establish a historic overlay district in the city of Laconia pursuant to RSA 973-4 and 674-45 through 50. And the legal notice was published in the October 11th issue of the Laconia Daily Sun. And who is gonna do that presentation?
It's just gonna be for public input this evening, for the public hearing aspect.
Do they all have,
Need a public hearing.
do they, okay, I understand that, but do they all have the edits?
I believe everything was put out there.
Okay, so at this time, then, we'll just open the public hearing at 6:37 and a half. Anybody that would like to address the board on the Historic Overlay District, come on up to the microphone. Please identify yourself by your name and your address, or the street you live on, or something like that.
Sure.
Thanks.
Tara Shore, 47 Adams Street.
Hi, Tara.
Hi. Good evening. Thank you for your decision to hold this public hearing regarding the establishment of a historic overlay district. I've stood at this podium often, several times over the last 6 months, and this evening would like to take the opportunity to share some specific facts. This information comes from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the National Park Service, and conversations with town planners and historic district commissioners from other New Hampshire towns. I hope these facts will answer any remaining questions about the significant benefits that a historic overlay district can bring to Laconia and demonstrate what we can achieve for this city: economic growth, attracting new families and new business. A designated historic overlay district makes Laconia a vibrant community where people would like to stay, work, and play. The purpose for establishing historic districts is to protect areas of outstanding architectural and historic value from encroachment by inappropriate building forms or development patterns which could negatively affect the area's character. Historic districts are designated to recognize a group of buildings, properties as historically or architecturally significant. Establishing a historic overlay district is one of the best ways to protect the historic character of buildings, streetscapes, and neighborhoods from inappropriate alterations and incompatible new construction, as well as outright demolition. It does not freeze an area in time. Rather, it is about guiding change and preserving community character, as an area grows and evolves over time. Historic districts have been used successfully throughout the country as a means to protect community character, and most vibrant towns have some form of historic design review in place. In New Hampshire alone, we have over 60 local historic districts in cities as large as Concord and Somersworth, and towns as small as Canaan and Hancock. Developers known for quality work frequently seek out properties in historic districts. Tax advantages for rehabilitating buildings in historic districts can be available. Zoning regulates use. Historic districts do not. Local historic districts also do not restrict the sale of the property, require improvements or restoration of the property, require approval for interior changes or alterations, prevent new construction within historic areas, or require approval for ordinary repair or maintenance. However, I will make a note here. If you have acquired or own, in regards to the ordinances that you all have and that has been given to the public, if you have required or own a property of significant historical value, keep that in mind, a historically significant value, there is a possibility that the changes or alterations to the inside of the property would need to be presented to the Historic District Commission, which has not been established yet. Due to the significance of certain properties in Laconia, this addition was made to the proposed ordinances. And examples of something of that nature would be St. Joseph's Church, the inside of that building, or the inside of the building that Scott Everett has, the Lakeport Opera House, or the Gardens Theater. Those types of buildings that are still intact in the city today that are absolutely usable and absolutely beautiful. Those would be things that you may have to come to the not yet established Historic District Commission and review what you might be doing inside of those. Historic districts are not adopted to impose hardships on people, nor do commissions insist that buildings be restored or become museum structures. The purpose is to retain as much of the historic fabric as is feasible, and when alterations are necessary, that the underlying historic character of the building is not lost in the process. Historic district regulations provide quality assurance standards so that if you invest in your building, you are assured that your investment won't be negated by a thoughtless renovation next door to you. Real estate agents in many communities use historic district status as a marketing tool to sell properties because buyers are assured that the aspects that make the particular area attractive will be protected over a period of time. Local historic districts encourage better design. There is generally a greater sense of cohesion, more innovative use of materials, and greater public appeal within historic districts than in areas without them. Studies show that districts are a useful tool in stabilizing, even increasing property values, and stimulating new investment. A community that values its history and architecture is generally one that is attractive to live and work in. Most historic districts do not regulate paint color or many other changes that are considered cosmetic and can readily be reversed. Historic districts that regulate paint color normally only do so upon the overwhelming desire of the residents within the district. And here I make another note regarding the ordinances that you have in front of you. It was important to members of our council and planning board that the ordinances for Laconia be appropriate and not too restrictive. No, there is not an ordinance requiring properties to be painted a certain color or grass to be cut a certain length. The ordinances put forth focus on the appearance of a property complementing the character of the neighborhood it is in and the city of Laconia as a whole. Studies across the nation have conclusively demonstrated that historic designation and the creation of historic districts actually increase property values. Historic preservation is typically more cost-effective than new construction. The upgrades that historic buildings might need are usually less expensive than the cost of building all new foundations, structural systems, roofs, and building finishes. Historic preservation laws no more infringe on property rights than do many other laws. Zoning laws prevent you from replacing your single-family home with an apartment building or a 5-story vertical mansion. The purpose of a historic district is not to make it impossible to make changes. It is to make sure that the change is appropriate. The protection of local historic districts can enhance business recruitment potential, which I think we can all agree is what we are on the path to do here in Laconia. Companies continually relocate to communities that offer their workers a higher quality of life, which is greatly enhanced by successful local preservation programs and stable historic districts. The educational benefits of creating local districts are the same as those derived from any historic preservation effort. Districts help explain the development of a place, the source of inspiration, and technological advances. They are a record of ourselves and our communities. And I would also like to add, in conclusion here, that a question has come up often to me about historic, being on the National or State Historic Registry. And it is a myth that being on those will save a building from demolition. That is untrue. We can put every building in the state, in the country, on a historic registry. It is not going to save them. It is a designation only, as is a landmark, and those buildings or structures or items can be destroyed at any time. So I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Yes, of course.
I'm curious what you just said, Tara, about the, if it's designated as a historical building, that's done by the state or the town or both, or the federal government?
You can do, it can be nationally designated and it can be done through the state as well. So we do have some buildings in the city that are both on the state registry and on the national, and we have some that are on one or the other.
But wouldn't it be up, if it gets that title, could the city, state, county, somebody designate to say that this will be preserved, in other words, not torn down?
I think we have someone in the audience tonight who may be able to answer that better than me.
Okay, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
about that.
I feel like that's a city, state law question, and I don't know the answer to that one.
All right,
That would be fantastic, but I feel like that's a no. But I think Andrew Cushing from New Hampshire Preservation Alliance may have a better answer to that than I do.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Vinnie, you can stand corrected when I said the purpose of registration, I think, is so that it's for purposes of inventory rather than restricting land uses.
Well, yeah, I get the land use thing, I'm just,
The idea is that we want a list of these resources so we can keep track of them when they're destroyed.
I think some of us are actually interested in protecting the life of the building, but
Right.
that may be.
Right, thank you very much, that was, and well, you covered everything.
Thank you.
Who would like to come up after that? Hello,
Hello, I'm Marcia Hayward. I live at 9 Wildwood Road in Laconia.
welcome, Marcia.
Thank you. As the planning board is fully aware, our next-door neighbor, the town of Guilford, has a historical district and has been in existence for at least 75 years. I have reviewed the proposal that has come out of the planning board. I have compared it to the Guilford's document for its historical district, and Guilford's is more restrictive than what is being proposed here. And with that said, I'm sure that there are going to be residents of Laconia and businesses that are going to have concerns if they end up being part of the overlay district. And those concerns caused me to reach out to Guilford and to ask them how they deal with issues that come forth from their businesses and residents. And my contact person told me that the secret to Guilford's success with their historical district is the fact that they work cooperatively with their businesses and their residents. It's a matter of cooperation. And an example that was given was there was a business in Guilford that wanted to do some signage, and the two parties, the commission, the business, they sit down and they work it out to the satisfaction of both parties. So it is my opinion that Laconia should follow Guilford's example, establish a historical district, work in conjunction with our community leaders. And by doing so, I think we will become as proud of our heritage as Guilford is. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's interesting you mentioned that because my 92-year-old stepdad is the chair of that, the historic district in Guilford, that commission. And I actually missed a city meeting last month because I had to go sit with my mom while he went to a meeting, so. And yes, it is very reasonable as it's applied over there in Guilford. Did you have something else?
I did, Mr. Chair. I have, as I indicated earlier, I have to leave early for a delegation meeting.
Yes, sir.
So I want to apologize to the rest of the people that I won't be able to hear, but I will definitely hear it at some point. And I don't know if we're going to take a vote on this or not, and I know I can't leave a vote, but I would tell you that if I was here, I would vote in favor to move this to the city council. So thank you very much, and with that,
Thank
I
you,
will
Representative St. Clair.
disappear.
He failed to mention he has to leave because he has a county delegation meeting this evening. Can't be in two places at once. You want to go sit with my mom sometime? No. All right. Hi.
Hi, I'm Jane Whitehead, 245 Pleasant Street.
Okay.
I had 3 points that I wanted to make, and I'll try to make them succinctly. One Tara made much more eloquently just now, namely that the bottom line here is that historic districts tend to bring financial benefit and prosperity to a zone, to a town when implemented. The second point is that when I've heard objections to this sort of historic district, it makes me think that some people have the wrong model in mind when they're thinking of it. They're thinking of maybe Strawberry Bank, which is not a historic district. It is an outdoor museum. Or they're thinking of perhaps Durham or Lancaster, which has instead something called form-based zoning, which is trending in this country quite a bit, particularly in, say, Florida and South Carolina, where they're building whole towns, and they want to have them uniform in character, and they're building them to look like New England villages. So it's not that. It's not restrictive. The historic district is not restrictive in that regard. And the third point I wanted to make is that the Catholic Church has submitted a demolition permit before the Heritage Commission, of which I'm the chair, and they have not rescinded that, even though they have planned to divide the property into 3 and sell the parcels separately, so that the church cannot be saved, even if a historic district is imposed in that area. But if someone should buy the Buzzell House, who wants to tear it down, there's nothing that anyone can do to save it, even though it's on the National Register of Historic Places. Also, the train station, which is commercial property, if someone wants to tear down that beautiful porte cochere and put up golden arches, there's nothing we can stop them. No way we can stop them for that. And thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Ms. Whitehead. Would anyone else like to address the board this evening?
My name is Andrew Cushing from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance. So I'm from away. I don't live in Laconia. But I can...
we won't hold that against you.
Okay, yeah. You can call me a wannabe, maybe. resident. But really, my job is to travel around the state, and I help communities start preservation projects or kind of implement tools and policies that save larger areas, like in historic district commissions. So I get the benefit of seeing every single town in New Hampshire, and being a younger person who moved back to New Hampshire, knowing the value of communities that have decided to save what's important to their towns and really value what makes their place unique and authentic. And we know, I mean, it's easy to say studies show and studies say this, but there are an increasing amount of studies that do show, as communities are trying to attract families and younger generations, that especially this millennial and Generation Z generation, really value the authenticity and the character-defining features that are saved in places that have historic district commissions. And I think you can look at any downtown in New Hampshire, and any really successful downtown has some layer of protection. And like the others have said before, historic district commissions are written to be tailored to the community that they're in. So there are some places in New Hampshire that do have very strict ordinances, and usually that's because the people have dictated that that's what they want. There are other towns that have very lax historic district commissions that allow vinyl siding, that allow paint of any color, that allow vinyl replacement windows. And instead they really focus on just the larger picture, kind of the neighborhood defining pieces that make their town their town. So I guess I'm here to just say this would be a huge thing for Laconia. I know Laconia has been discussing the creation of a historic district since the 1980s. There have been studies that have been drawn up, and it would be really fantastic, especially knowing we find that it's when demolition permits are filed that people really get scared and jump-started about creating something like this, and we've seen this in Wentworth most recently. There was a Dollar General that wanted to come. I don't know if you guys have been to Wentworth, but it's really one of those quintessential commons with the church at the head of the common. And Dollar General purchased a house at the corner and wanted to demolish it. And the town said, well, maybe now, this is the town that didn't have zoning or anything. And they said, maybe this is the time we should really think about a historic district commission. And they didn't end up doing it. And Dollar General did demolish that house. And now they have a Dollar General in town, this metal box of a building with a huge parking lot and a flashing yellow sign outside these wood-framed houses.
I know that square, right?
Yeah. So I think when we're not proactive, damaging things happen. And if we're in charge of what we want our communities to look like, so I would encourage the planning board to take this opportunity.
Thank you, Andrew. I have a question. So you work for the Division of Historic and Cultural Resources or whatever it's...
So I work for the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, which is a statewide nonprofit.
Oh, okay. It's a nonprofit.
Yep.
So are there resources available to, if a commission is established, to train local volunteers to serve on the commission and to assist as technical staff?
Yep, yeah, I mean, absolutely. And part of the city's job will be nominating members of that commission. So they're looking for people who have experience in architectural history or architecture or planning. But yes, and then there are trainings and workshops offered around the state to help. I mean, we have 55 plus historic district commissions. Not everyone is an expert on day one.
Right.
So.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to come up? Oh, come on, don't be shy. Anyone else wish to speak on this issue before I close the public hearing? All right, sensing none, public hearing is closed at 6:57. What is the pleasure of the board? I believe our options are to vote or to delay the vote. I think really that's at this point.
Well, I'm going to speak for myself, and I'm going to speak for my role as the liaison from the city council with respect to this. This came from the city council to the planning board. People put a lot of work into it. It's something that should be considered seriously by the city council. So I'm moving it. I make the motion that we make the recommendation to the city council that they adopt the overlay district as proposed.
All right, is there a second to Councilor Brown's motion? And the second is by Mr. Delvecchio. Is there any discussion on this motion, which we have discussed for a couple of meetings?
Yes,
Mr. Bonet?
unfortunately, my position still is that establishing a historic district that is going to only apply to truly one property is a failure. If you want to create a historic district that's gonna cover all of Laconia, go right ahead. But we're talking about putting together a plan that that puts restrictions on the railroad building. That's it. The school, it's not gonna affect that. There's already, church may come down. The library can be torn down at any time. That's a choice the city has, because the city's not required to abide by any of the rules regarding a historic district. So I just have a problem putting restrictions on one particular property. I think that's a mistake for us to do. If you expanded it, I'd probably feel less hesitant. But one particular property and one property owner is who really gets affected here. I think that's a mistake.
All right, thank you for that. I have a question. The ordinance that's before us that we're recommending in subpart B delineates the district. How would the district be modified going forward, Councilor Bounds? If, for example, you
That
wanted
would
to be
be-
more expansive?
That would be recommendations that maybe the historic commission would make, maybe some other body would make, the Historical Society, they would make recommendations for consideration of inclusion of other properties in the city of Laconia that qualify, or that may qualify for inclusion in the overlay district. So while this is very narrow, that's true, it gives the opportunity for the commission or other entities to make recommendations to include that property in an expanded historical overlay district, so.
So it'd be an amendment to an ordinance, basically, the
It
same
would
process.
be, you would go through the same process, it would come before the planning board, the new district would be identified, there'd be a public hearing on that, the planning board then would make a vote as to whether to recommend that amendment to the city council. The city council would then have deliberations on it, they'd have a public hearing on it, and they'd take a vote. It's the same process we've just gone through.
So if the city council, if anyone is unhappy with the delineation that's set forth in the version that is pending for us to recommend tonight, they could take that to the city council before the city council votes to adopt the ordinance, couldn't they?
Right, this is not the end of the process,
Right.
it's the beginning of the process, and the city council can reject it, modify it, or do any number of things.
Can I touch on that too?
Sure.
And the reason we did that was to try to simplify when it went to council, so that it wasn't this huge thing they had to look at. And then later, obviously, the commission is going to have way more knowledge than, like, I was on the committee, I have no idea about any of that, the historic values, so them designating the buildings made more sense.
So isn't it likely that it would be property owners downtown that would come forward and say, I'd like my building, my block to be included, and here's why?
Possibly.
I mean, based on what we heard here tonight, it enhances the value of the neighborhood, enhances the value of the property. It attracts developers. If a developer came in, what's the likelihood that a developer would want their development to be included in a district? I mean, is it truly enhance the value, or would it restrict the developer's ability to develop it? I mean, I don't know.
We have not heard from one property owner downtown who's come to one of these meetings to talk in favor of this.
That's true.
So
But
that
there
would be.
haven't been any before us talking against it either.
Well, that's true also. I think for me, it really comes down to, we're gonna form if you put this in place, you get a historic committee, and that committee's gonna be able to designate other properties that don't belong to them, that they feel should be protected. That's always an issue for me. If it's my property, I don't need other people coming along determining for me what is best for me.
Well, again, that would be a process. You just couldn't be included
No, you
as
couldn't.
part of the overlay district.
We'd go through
without-
this whole
without
process
through the
again.
whole
Process.
process, in which case,
Hearing.
you would have a voice as the property
Correct.
owner.
And I understand that.
Okay.
All
I
right,
just think it's a mistake, but that's my 2 cents.
well, you've made that quite clear throughout, Mr. Vice Chair. Is there any other comment on the motion that's pending? Sensing none, then I will call the vote. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Opposed, and the motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1. Thank you. We have just barely a quorum this evening. Which is why I'm here to close. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone, for speaking on this so eloquently.
Now, you guys can go home, but I can't.
You can go home anytime, Dave. You can just phone it in. All right, so I guess we pick back up with 6. Are we at 6.1? Presentation on rezoning Southtown. Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. I don't pick up on your nonverbal cues when I'm not looking at you, Rob.
So, good evening, Planning Board. I'm Robert Moore, I'm the Assistant Planner for the City of Laconia. On October 28th, the Mayor and City Council put forth a proposal to redistrict the South Down and Long Bay area of the city to shorefront residential, as they saw that it met the same criteria or definition of the current shorefront residential areas that we have already established in the city. And this would be kind of to complement the new short-term rental ordinance that's being discussed at City Council at this time. So,
What does that mean?
so it means that currently Southdown and Long Bay are zoned residential single-family. It would be then reclassified to the shorefront residential, which allows them different options than what are currently allowed there. Really, for the most part, it's looking for allowing by right the short-term lodging.
Would it have any effect on the proposed WOW Trail extension through Southtown?
I don't think that would affect it whatsoever.
Affect that, okay. Do you have a question?
Yeah, so this proposal's coming from where?
From the mayor and city council.
Not from the residents?
No, it is not coming from the residents.
Okay. So, again, concerns me.
That's a big elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah, we could
The people
schedule
that
a
live
public
there aren't
hearing on it,
asking.
couldn't we? Wouldn't we want, we're not, you're not asking us to take, this is a presentation.
No, this is just a presentation only, so the board would have several options going forward. They could schedule it for public hearing. We could also send it to a subcommittee for further discussion or analysis looking forward to it. We could wait until the city council decides what they're doing with the short-term rental ordinance and whether this would need to go through. If they were to permit it by right everywhere, would this necessarily hold true? So there's different variables in here we could wait for to see how they play
With
out.
us until we act on it?
It is.
Well, I like the subcommittee idea, but we're a little short-handed right now.
I
Yes.
think it makes sense to table this thing until we can get further information on it.
All right.
I think it's important to know what the short-term rental is gonna be.
Right. We wouldn't want to take any action without input from the residents and the butters.
No, I think it's important to know what the final form of the short-term lodging or rentals
I agree with that.
is
Right.
going to be before we push forward much further. But I guess my question is a little more, how many other shorefront properties on Opeechee or Winnisquam or somewhere that could possibly fall into the category of shorefront residential? How many are there? Do we know?
I'm sure if we were to analyze what is currently zoned, a lot of RS and some RR1 areas that are also on the shore. They could also potentially meet that same definition of the shorefront residential area that is out in the weirs.
I think we ought to know that, however we go about this. I think we ought to know what other situated properties may be affected, or could argue that they want to take advantage of it, or don't like it, or whatever. So I think we ought to know that.
So you want to table, we'll table it till next time. We can table it until the next meeting, and then hopefully staff will have more information for us.
I would be in favor of doing that.
Yeah. All right, so I think Ed was making that motion.
I'd make a motion that we table this for further discussion till December.
And a second?
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Jenna. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Morrow.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, we are at, I wish my glasses worked in all conditions. 7.1. This is a PL 2017-0088 SP and 0089 CUP wetland. And this is an extension request. It was continued from October 1st. So, is there an applicant here for that one? Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Burnell. I'm building a house at 40 Carriage Lane, and I'm proposing to put a deck on my property.
This isn't your,
Wrong
this is,
one.
you're on a,
One?
yep, not, sorry.
So,
This is the property on Union Avenue,
The duplex?
1212 to 1214 Union Ave. There you go.
There it is.
We'll get to you.
All right. My name is Tim Leclerc, Dock Four Shores, 1212, 1214 Union Ave. Looking for an extension of the subdivision plan. I believe it was approved September 2017.
Is this the duplex next
Yes, it
to
is.
the Marine Construction place?
Yep.
Okay, just for the record, why are you requesting an extension?
We're not complete. We're not complete. We extended it in 2018, which is about when we were able to actually get started. We were delayed.
Right.
We have one of the units being built now, about 4 to 5 weeks away from completion, and we're hopes to start the other building hopefully next year. So that's why we're looking for
So
extension.
there's a second building that's going on that parcel?
Yes, there is.
Oh.
Yep.
So how many units in total is that gonna be?
It'll be 4 total. Each building, two
So
separate
two
buildings.
duplexes,
Two
basically.
duplexes. Yep.
You're not building one in front of the other lakefront, right? No, I
No,
didn't think so.
side by side.
That would significantly decrease the value of the one closest to the Union Avenue.
Yeah, it would.
All right. Okay, does the board have any questions for the applicant regarding this extension request? All right. All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
What's
I
pleasure of the
move we
board?
grant the extension until when?
Uh,
November 3rd, 2020.
Pardon me?
November 3rd, 2020.
November 3rd, 2020. Motion made by Counselor Bounds. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bonas. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you and good luck. Get your work done. All right, where are we now? 7.2. 06010 SU, 007 CUP, and 008 CUP. This is Route 106 and 107 Lilac Valley Estates. It's an extension request for completion to November 3rd, 2020. We hear from the applicant.
Good
John?
evening, John Roque with Roque Consulting here on behalf of Ray Sullivan, Lilac Valley LLC. Basically, where we've been for in the last year was we had to get some foundations going and actually get a CO on a house. There are, as of today, there's 4 foundations in. We have 3 more building permits, and Dean has looked at the subdivision and said once we get our first CO on these new houses we're building, that the project will be completely vested. So we're well on our way. Within the next, month or two, we should hopefully have our first CO and should not have to come back to you guys again.
This is off Old Prescott Hill?
Yeah, there's a third phase of the project off of Old Prescott Hill, but, the main part of the project that's going
Off-
right now
access
is
off
off of
107,
107, yeah.
Okay.
If
All
you
right.
remember, the first phase, it was built years ago, right when it was approved, and then the Mark Drive was built, and just no houses have got going since the road got built, but, there are now.
All right. Was Brady Sullivan the original developer? Or
No.
that was Gagnon, wasn't it?
Nope, Baldy.
Oh, right, okay.
Yep.
Yep.
MCX, I think it was called at the time, and Gary Coyne was involved with it at that point too.
I remember that, yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Are there any questions for the applicant from the board? All right, thank you, Mr. Oki. What's the board's pleasure? We have a motion?
What's the date again?
November 3rd, 2020.
Okay, I move to extend it to November 3rd of 2020.
There's a motion by Counselor Bounds. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by the vice chair. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. And the motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck. Okay. We had some public hearings. Let's see. We did that one. All right, 9.2, right? 04018 SP, as amended. 277 Weirs Boulevard, the High Spot condos. Proposal to amend the conditions of the condominium approval from July 6, 2004, to allow Unit 10 to be used as a primary residence. And we need to start with a motion to accept. Is the application ready for acceptance?
The application is ready for acceptance.
All right, so, would someone care to move it as an
Make a
accepted?
motion that we accept
The application.
the application 04018 SP, amended 277 Weirs Boulevard, High Spot condo.
Motion by Mr. Bonas. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Kenna. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising the hand. All right, the application has been accepted. Hi.
I love this place. I didn't have to say a word. How you doing?
Well, now you do. I mean, it's a formality, but,
I get it.
yeah. Could you state your name for the record, please?
My name's Kenneth Marrier. I live at 277, well, I hope to live at 277 Weirs Boulevard.
Okay, so tell us, what's behind all this? What are you trying to accomplish?
We stay there so much, and they're kind of looking for somebody, they're starting to call me a caretaker there anyway, so I'm there and nobody else is there. And when I bought the place, I kind of, all this was, I think that somebody had misled us to thinking it was a primary residence. So I just wanted to get this to where we all thought it was going when we purchased, and then found out abruptly afterwards that that 10 wasn't included in that. We were told it was. And we kind of bought it under that premise, and
How
I'm
many
just here
units-
to try and make it right so that I can live there if I want.
How many units are there total? How many different units are there?
I think there's 17 altogether.
And some of them have been designated for year-round, and some of them are designated for seasonal, is that?
Correct, yes.
And you bought a seasonal?
I thought I was buying a year-round. So I have the standalone unit as
Yeah.
well as the other two that are like what I'm proposing to be. And believe it or not, they all thought the same thing that I thought until we dug deeper.
What's the status of the other two standalones?
They're never there, but it's okay. They're good
Well,
friends.
I mean, are they year-round or are they seasonal?
They're year-round, but they're not used
But they're
for
never
it.
there?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Kind of a lonely place in the winter, but it's beautiful, actually, tell you the truth.
Oh, I like the winter around here.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
The older I get, the less I do, but. So, are there any questions for the
Yeah,
applicant?
Well, not for the applicant, no, more for Rob. I'm just a little confused as to, somebody has this cottage that's designated seasonal, you can't live there year-round?
So in the original notice of action for this approval, the planning board stipulated that all of these except for two would be for seasonal, all but two will be seasonal. The other two can be lived in as a primary residence. So in order for anybody else to use one of those properties as a primary residence, they have to come back before the board to amend that.
So when they changed from a motel to a condo, that was the stipulation, am I correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
When they condominiumized it. Do you have any idea what the reasoning was?
So we looked through the entire file. We were unable to locate anything that led the planning board to create that seasonal description for them.
So from a land use regulation standpoint, what is the practical effect of the request that the applicant is making? It's not gonna have any
It's not gonna
greater
have any-
impact on
It's not gonna have any.
butters
adverse-
or
no.
the municipal services or?
And I do have the brand, I have the newest unit there. It's completely rebuilt, brand new.
You look
I'm
like
the
a
only
young man.
one,
Do you have some
actually, who has a
school-aged children?
foundation and a cellar.
Do you have any school-aged children?
Yeah, I actually have some school-aged grandchildren.
Ah, but they don't reside with you probably.
Pardon?
Never mind.
Oh, sorry.
So the impact,
I'm
I guess, I was making a very bad joke about things that I probably shouldn't have been joking.
Well, no, it's not about schooling or anything like that.
Oh, I
That's
know.
not my intentions, no.
I know. All
Just to
right.
retire there a little bit.
And take care of the place.
Just curious, when was this original approval?
2004,
2004?
yeah. And for some reason, the planning board wanted to restrict the number of units that were going to be full-time.
Yeah, nobody can figure it for anything, so.
And you can't find anything in the records explaining any of this?
No. Well,
No, because the original building before the condo had the same thing, so they just had the same.
It could have been based on input from abutters at the time that were concerned about, I don't know, noise or a lot of people coming and going and.
it could have had a lot to do with them wanting to keep that particular area as a seasonal use.
Was Overlook built yet?
I think so,
Was, okay.
yeah.
Because I don't know,
Overlook's
maybe,
been around.
the place is like very highly dense, it's dense.
Yeah,
You know, it's very populated right there along that stretch, so.
it is, yeah.
I
All right.
understand.
Are they subject to impact fees, Rob, or that would not?
No, they're not adding anything to it. Everything,
Correct.
that's already, it's already all there.
Yeah.
And you got water and sewer up there.
They've got
Yes.
sewer. they've
We
got
have
their own
water,
well.
but it's not,
Okay.
we're still on a well, yeah.
All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you all,
For the board.
appreciate you spending that time, thank you.
Let them live there.
Public input.
I move that we grant,
Public input.
Oh, sorry about that, yes. We're gonna open a public hearing on this issue right now. Are there any abutters here that would like to be heard? Any butters? This is High Spot. Any, members of the public that would like to be heard on this one? Any members of the public? All right, sensing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:21. Now, what is the pleasure of the board?
I move that we grant conditional approval with the conditions set by the planning department, the recommended conditions, including project completion dates, 1A, B, and C, and miscellaneous 2A and B.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion by Counselor Bounds and a second by Ms. Jenna. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? And it carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Enjoy the winter.
Thank you, I will.
And the next one, and the next one, and the next one. Okay. All right. We are now at 9.3. This is 25 Eastman Shore Drive. It's PL 2019-0126 CUP. It's a proposal to correct the site and erosion control issues. We need a motion to accept the application before we begin. Is it in order and ready for acceptance?
The application is complete and ready for acceptance.
All right. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion that we accept PL 2019-0126 CUP, wetland buffer, 26 Eastman Shore Drive.
A motion by the vice chair, is there a second? A second by the secretary. Any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed, and it's been accepted unanimously. Eastman Shore, does someone like to come up and tell us about this?
It would be me. My name is Michael Sorois. I own the property on, at 25 Eastman Shore Road South. We don't live there year-round, but we do stay there year-round. We purchased the property in September of 18, so just over a year ago. Last November, during some heavy rains, we had some issues with some erosion in part of the yard coming, down into the driveway. But what was more noted was that the septic alarm woke me up, that that it was saying that it was full.
Right.
It happened a second time, and I contacted the original site contractor. I believe it was Reardon Construction. He came over. I was thinking it was something wrong with the septic. He came over and looked at it. By the time he got there, the tank was empty. But he had mentioned to me that I was discussing with him the amount of water that was coming down over the septic field and down the hill on the side of the house, and he had informed me that the driveway had been moved. So he did the original site work, and the homeowner had moved the driveway. It used to come up from the house and go up to the right. It now actually comes up and goes to the left. I didn't have an original as-built plan of the house or the property when I purchased it. But what I did have was the aerial photos from the real estate listing that shows when we purchased it, it was actually already moved. I had a friend who's a site contractor that had done work when I built a home in Chester. He came up to look at it, realized what was wrong. He lined the swales and put the rip-rap rock in it. Picked up all of the yard and sand and soil that was down in the driveway and on the side of the house. Because actually this spring it got much worse. And that's some of the photos that are in that application there. You can see it on the side of the septic,
right,
running down into the driveway. He came in, lined that, moved all that soil back up, put loam over it, seeded it. And then that's when I was unaware that, because I didn't think that if we weren't right at the water, I didn't realize to correct that a permit was needed. Dean contacted me. I think he went out and looked at it. He actually didn't notice initially that the driveway had been moved, but when we were looking at the original as-built from when the house was completed, you can see the difference in the driveway.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So you're basically asking the board to retroactively approve the site plan changes that you made. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. Have you corrected the erosion problems?
Yes.
And the septic, what was it, filling up with groundwater, or was it spill in from?
We don't know. By the time he got there, he dug the cover up and looked inside, and he said that it's empty. There's nothing in there, so I don't know exactly what was causing it, but it was obvious. There was probably maybe 1.5 inches or so of water when it would rain heavy that would come down that hill. So you couldn't walk up the hill, the ground was that saturated.
Well, until this evening, I didn't know there was such a thing as a septic alarm. So
I didn't either.
What is it? Well, you must have wondered, what is that sound, dear?
Yes.
What is it, like a motion sensor or a float?
I would imagine it's some sort of a float. I didn't see in the tank, but.
Interesting. All right. All right, well, thank you. We can hear from staff on
You want
this.
to do public input first?
Yeah.
All right, we can do public input first. That's 7:28. Are there any abutters here that would like to speak regarding the 25 Eastman Shore? Any abutters? Okay, are there any members of the public? Any members of the public? All right, well, we'll close the public hearing then, 7:28, and now we'll hear from Planner Mora.
So this was brought to the planning department's attention via somebody that drove by and witnessed that they were doing work there with the potential need of a CUP, where he discussed that there was a water issue and the prior person had moved the driveway, which then caused a lot of the erosion control issues out there. The applicant has finished all of the work. It's been before the Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission agreed with everything that was done, and we support the application going forward to you.
Yeah, well, it sounds like it's a necessary improvement. Thank you, Rob.
Sure.
Are there any questions for staff? All right, guess not. What would be the pleasure of the board this evening?
I'd make a motion that we approve the corrected site and erosion issue plan for PL 2019-0126 CUP, Grand Wetland Buffer.
We have a motion by the vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second by Ms. Jenna. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Good luck, and may you have a dry spring. And fall and winter. All right, we are now at 9.4, which is PL 2013-0119 SU. Pendleton Road, Beechwood Development. It's an amendment to the application of the cluster subdivision to adjust lot lines for lot number 8. Before we get to that, we need a motion to accept this application. Is it ready?
The application is ready for acceptance.
All right, staff recommends we accept it. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept application PL 2013-0119 Amendment 2 for 61 Pendleton Road.
Motion by member Jenna. Is there?
Second that.
Seconded by the vice chair. Any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? And that motion carries unanimously as well. Okay, the applicant,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Smith.
planning board members, Stephen Smith of Steve Smith and Associates, representing Mr. Remington and his wife on the Pendleton Beach Road cluster subdivision. I have been in here many times on this project, as you all know. Tonight, we are requesting to amend Lot 8. Lot 8 is a lot within the subdivision that, when it was approved, had a 30-foot wetland buffer, and then the wetland buffer changed to 50 feet and made the lot basically non-buildable. We came in and got a CUP, conditional use permit, to build on that lot because we couldn't even market it without having that. We have been back in here 2 or 3 times to get that extended. He has had interest in Lot 7 on the waterfront, and took a new look at Lot 8 and wanted to, basically, it's basically the same shape, roughly the same size. What we've done is we've slid it further away from the lake along the road, taken more of the wetland out of the lot itself, and made the lot, most of the lot upland area with the, a little bit of wetland in the, what would be the northwest corner of the property. So the lot is basically the same. We just take some wetland out of it and make it more upland.
I'm not sure I'm
Steve, I'm gonna put you on hold 1 second. Kalina, can we bother you for a minute? I don't see Lot 8.
Have you got the right sheet? It's a 2-sheet,
I'm looking at
it should be sheet 1 of 2.
Oh, there you go, you got different sign. Where's Lot 8?
This is the lot right here. So they're moving it down.
This would be this Lot 8 that we're talking about.
Right here, okay.
And it was up here, with that upper pin that you
Okay.
see, it used to be there and come down and go over here. So all of this wetland was in.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
All the
You got
wetland
it now?
there was in the lot itself. This
So
is
is this the
basically,
new
again,
Lot 8?
this is the.
giving
new
it
one.
more upland. I will have to be upfront with you that we're still gonna have to come back in and get the conditional use permit on Lot 8, because even though we have
You're in the
more
buffer.
upland, we still can't get away from that
Yeah.
wetland enough to meet the 50-foot buffer. So, and
Understood.
that's the next.
So this is phase one.
This
Yes,
is the
that's-
boundary line adjustment.
That's the boundary line adjustment before I come back and ask for the conditional use.
Okay. All right,
So basically, the subdivision stays the same, sliding it further away from the lake, actually, and taking more of the wetland out of the lot.
I see that. Thank you. Are there any questions for the applicant? All right, sensing none, why don't we open a public hearing on this one? At 7:34, are there any abutters here? This is the Pendleton Road, 61 Pendleton Road, Beechwood Development. Are there any members of the public? Anyone at all? Going once? Going twice? All right, we're gonna close the public hearing at 7:34, and we're gonna hear from staff on this one.
As the applicant has very much described, they're adjusting the lot so it's more out of the wetlands, I suppose. So it's an overall better,
It's environmentally better and it's economically better for the applicant.
absolutely.
So it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
All right. Are there any questions for staff? Sensing none, I would entertain a motion at this point.
I'd make a motion that we approve lot line adjustment for PL 2013-0119 SU, 61 Pendleton Road.
Motion made by Mr. Bonas. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Jenna. Any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor signify by raising their hands. Anyone opposed? Another unanimous vote. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
We're rocking and rolling.
Not leaving.
We are, I guess. All right, we are at PL 2014-0158 CUP. It's another wetland buffer. It's 205 Wentworth Cove this time, which is Lot 8 of Beechwood. Didn't we just do this one?
This is the,
Oh, this is the CUP that goes with it. All right, so we need acceptance first. Is there a motion? To accept, is it on?
It is ready for acceptance.
I figured you'd interrupt me if it wasn't.
it's ready for acceptance.
Yes, okay. Motion?
I'll make a motion to accept application PL 2014-0158 CUP, Amendment 2, 61 Pendleton Road, or 205 Wentworth Cove.
Thank you. The motion by Ms. Jenna. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second from Counselor Bounds. Is there any discussion of the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye, or raise your hand, or whatever. Ask your feet. Opposed? Another unanimous motion to accept. So, we meet again.
Mr. Chairman, again, for the record, Stephen Smith of Steve Smith and Associates, representing the Remington family on Lot 8 of the Beechwood Cluster subdivision. Because we amended the lot and changed the lot, we decided to come in for a brand-new CUP and not extend. We normally would be in here asking for an extension. So this is a request for a brand-new CUP. I have been to the Conservation Commission, reviewed this thoroughly with them, put the note on the plan that they asked me to put on, left all the conditions on that were originally on their original approval. It's basically the same building, slid southwesterly, away from the lake, because we slid the lot in that direction. We think it's a much better plan, a much better lot with the amended adjustment to the lot line itself. But again, we still need the conditional use in order to build on it,
Sure.
in order to even market it.
Sure.
I had requested in my application for a CUP for a 2-year period instead of 1-year period. I believe the state allows that. Instead of keep coming back here, the lot, you can't build on it, you can't even sell it unless we can show it as buildable. We just think it would be a little more convenient, not only for the landowner, but for the planning board to keep coming back in here every year. If we could get it for 2 years, that would be great.
No, it's very courteous of you.
That's obviously up to the board.
Thanks. All right.
Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Smith? Well, I don't think we have any for you at this time, but I'm sure you'll remain available for any that may arise. So, why don't we open a public hearing on this conditional use permit application? It's 7:38. Are there any abutters here? Any abutters? Any members of the public? All right, sensing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:38. Staff recommendation?
As Mr. Smith indicated, he did discuss with us that he would like the CUP with a completion date of 2 years. On our staff review, we do have that going out to November 2nd, 2021. He did also meet with the Conservation Commission, and we kept all of the same conditions from the previous CUP that was approved for that same property, as it was requested by the Conservation Commission. So it meets all of their requirements.
All right.
So we would change paragraph G, is that right? Duration of approval? No?
No, we don't, that's, our standard one is for a year. We have this one down here under 1C as going out for 2 years.
1C.
Under I-1C.
Mylar, February 4th, 2020.
Projected completion deadlines for the project.
And
Okay, so
completion
we don't
by
have to
November
change
2nd,
anything in
2021.
terms of what you put in this motion, right?
Right.
We can trust you on that, right?
So, as long as you're referenced back to the staff review for your conditions of approval.
Okay.
Well, it sounds like David was gearing up to make a motion. Yeah. My spidey sense tells
Okay.
me.
Can I ask a point of, I'm not understanding, is this for a 2-year extension?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because the date doesn't,
What it says is, final plans by February 4th, 2020. Mylar with same date, and then completion November 2nd, 2021.
You don't need the Mylar, it's just the final plans. So but your completion date is out for November 2nd, 2021.
So 1C doesn't apply, there's no requirement for a new Mylar? Or,
No, because it's a CUP.
oh, that's right, CUP, right.
November 2nd, 2021 is not.
It is 2 years.
We're in 19.
Yeah, I'll be all right. You know, getting old, I can't keep dates going, yeah. I'm okay.
It's 2 years.
Sure.
2 years, D.
Yes, I
Yeah. All right.
can't add.
Okay.
No, it's okay, it's math. So, Counselor Bounce,
Okay.
would you
with
care to make
respect-
a motion for us?
With respect to application PL 2014-0158 CUP amendment, I move that we grant conditional approval with a with a criteria established by the planning department, Roman numeral 1, 1 and 2 inclusive.
Okay, the motion is on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Excuse me. Things we do for quorum. Okay, we are at Beechwood. That was continued. So 9.7, right? Sonia Drive?
Yep.
All right.
You actually need a motion to continue the Cottonwood.
To table it.
Oh, okay, yeah. The applicant has requested a continuance of PL 2019-0127 SP the 435 Union Avenue. It's a proposal to eliminate the cul-de-sac at the end of Cottonwood, and create a T-turnaround. Do we have a motion
I
to that
make a
effect?
motion that we,
Continue to December 3rd.
Until December 3rd.
Yep.
PL 2019-0127 SP.
All right, motion to continue. Second?
Did we get another attorney letter today
We got a letter from the applicant,
from the applicant itself?
yeah, from stating that they would like to continue it table it until December so they could attempt to work out some issues
Okay. With Public Works? With,
with some of the abutters.
gotcha. So, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Counselor Bounds. Is there any discussion on this motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. We are now at 9.7. It's PL 2019-0128 SU 11 Sonia Drive / 157 Mass Ave. It's a proposal for a boundary line adjustment between the two lots that are referenced here. Now 11 Sonia Drive and 157 Mass Ave. We need a motion to accept first.
So we need to accept the waiver.
I'd make a motion that we accept PL 2019-0128 SU 11 Sonia Drive, 157 Mass Ave. Proposal for boundary line adjustment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Jenna. Is it ready for acceptance?
Yes, Mr. Chair, you also need to vote to,
Do a sidewalk.
absolutely.
That's a separate vote.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. So, we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? This is the motion to simply accept the application. Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? And it carries unanimously. So, let's talk about the sidewalk waiver. Why are they requesting a sidewalk waiver?
According to the subdivision regulations, they'd be required to do the sidewalk. There's no sidewalk in that area. The sidewalk ends, I believe, up the next couple streets up, and it doesn't carry that far down on Mass Ave.
Right?
So,
So the fact that there is no existing infrastructure that, all by itself, that's
no, and they're not
sufficient?
creating any new lots. It's just,
It's just a boundary line.
it's just a boundary line
adjustment.
adjustment.
Would there be, would the city still have the ability to, when they come back before us, to impose the sidewalk ordinance? Or is that gonna is that waiver run with the property forever?
That's gonna run with the property.
So why should we do it? Isn't the purpose of the ordinance to encourage private developers to increase our infrastructure?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's hear from the applicant.
For the record, Dave Dolan, David M. Dolan Associates, for the applicants.
Good evening.
Mark Ashley and Ann Gelbert are the owners of 11 Sonia Drive. They're here with me tonight. And the Colburns own property at 157 Mass Ave.
Before you plunge in, we're at the point of the sidewalk waiver, and we'd like to hear why the applicant's applying for sidewalk waiver.
Well, this is, again, it's a developed residential neighborhood. This section of Mass Ave is, again, it's fully developed. There's very little developable land down there. It terminates at the railroad corridor. It's a boundary line adjustment with no change in road frontage.
How far, how many feet is it to the nearest sidewalk?
I believe it's probably about 1,000 feet to North Street.
Okay. And the sidewalk just ends where Mass Ave begins? Is that what it is?
At that intersection in that area, I can't tell you specifically where, but it comes down to North Street. I'm not sure if it even extends on to North Street.
So let me ask you this then. So if every applicant that comes in that doesn't have any abutting sidewalks, makes the same argument, then what is the purpose of having the ordinance? I mean, if we were to grant every sidewalk waiver for the reason you're just describing, wouldn't we be defeating the purpose of the ordinance in the first place?
You would be, I would think, if it's something that had the potential to be developed and add density and a need for travel between, to connect to a developed sidewalk. The last time I got involved with this was probably about 1993 or 94, and the applicant asked for a waiver and was denied, and escrowed money for a future sidewalk on the North Main Street bypass, and I believe it was about 10 years later, they refunded his escrow.
Okay, thanks. So I've asked all those tough questions.
I thought there was another option for the sidewalk thing. I know the sidewalk thing's come up a number of times. You could waive it, you could,
There's other, I believe, financial options. I would have to do some research and get back to you on that one.
all right.
Can we act on this without the sidewalk waiver tonight, or does he need the sidewalk
No,
waiver to go forward?
we would need the waiver in order to go forward with the boundary line adjustment.
Look, I don't wish to inconvenience you, but
You don't know what the cost would be what the money up front would be if we weren't to waive the sidewalks?
I do not know the cost of what the sidewalks would be.
Maybe I'm not getting this, and I'm certainly willing to think of it, but it seems to me that the chairman is right. If we just say, well, you never had a sidewalk before, you don't have to have a sidewalk now. I mean, I don't think that should be the test. There may be legitimate reasons outside of that one rationale, but I don't know.
if you were to Google my name in the phrase sidewalk to nowhere, you would get about 20 Daily Sun articles from when I was on the planning board back in the early 2000s. Because that somehow or another I got associated with the mean and nasty board requiring applicants to build sidewalks to nowhere.
To nowhere.
But again, I can't wrap my brain around it any differently. The purpose of the ordinance is to increase the infrastructure, knowing full well that the city barely can appropriate enough money to maintain existing streets and sidewalks. The last thing we're gonna see is Wes standing before us at CIP saying that he wants $5 million to build sidewalks.
Well, I suppose that's a good question. How much of a sidewalk is this, and how isolated would it be from every other property?
So I don't know the distance where the sidewalk terminates from, but it only goes down from Massachusetts Ave to North Street, and that's as far as it goes down.
And
So
I
that
think
might
we
be-
need to know that distance, and I think we need to know a little bit more about, no disrespect to the applicant, about the circumstances that warrant the waiver. That we used to have a form, I know that the applicant had to fill out to indicate the criteria in support of the waiver. But, we don't even know, an estimated cost of building the sidewalk, or if an escrow is appropriate.
How far away is the nearest sidewalk?
That's that's really the biggest thing. The fact that nobody is using sidewalks in that area means it's just simply a reflection of the fact that there are no sidewalks, and anyone that wants to take a walk has to walk in the road, which, especially this time of year, is dangerous. I don't know.
Nope, I can get that information back to you.
So should we continue this until next month, and then
So
we'll get to it in just a sec. Let me hear from staff.
So if we're not gonna approve the waiver, we need to continue it until next month.
The whole thing from this point, okay. Yes, sir. You wanna come up and,
I'm Mark Ashley, 11 Solomon Drive.
hi, Mark.
The property we're adjusting to, he just built that house 3 or 4 years ago. So I would assume he would have had some sort of sidewalk waiver conversation to pull his building permit. It's a new house.
So if you're just building a new house on an undeveloped lot, you're not putting in a sidewalk.
Only when you subdivide to make lots.
Correct.
subdivisions and.
If you come in for a
Planned unit
subdivision.
developments and things of that sort.
But this is, developed many years ago.
Right, but we're modifying
Yeah.
the conditional use permit, right?
So we're doing, yeah, correct, we're doing a boundary line adjustment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Peter, I'm all for sidewalks, but this house is like the last house on a dead-end road. So a sidewalk here is.
Is it literally the last house before the railroad tracks?
Yeah.
We are,
Yes.
we abut the railroad tracks.
It's before the railroad tracks.
We abut the railroad tracks.
You know, it's just.
It's before it gets to the T at the end. Is that what you're talking
You
about?
come to the T and then you pull into my driveway.
Oh, I see, okay.
So it's the dead end and then my driveway.
You know, so
But I thought there was something about this, because I know the sidewalk things come, it always comes up. So if I'm gonna build over here, I've gotta put in a sidewalk in this part of town. But if I'm over here at the end of the street, I get a complete waiver. Again, it's just not a fair process. And I thought there was some sort of option where we'd waive his having to put in a sidewalk, but he still paid for it so that sidewalks
Correct.
up the street could be continued.
correct.
Impact fee.
I can't remember what it was. I know I've heard this before.
Okay, so I'm gonna apologize. We're not ready to do this one tonight. We understand what you're saying, but we wanna do this right, and we also wanna do what's right for the general public as well. So, and staff has gotta get back to us with some information about this. We have questions that they're not prepared to answer for us tonight. It's not your fault. So, I think what we're gonna end up having to do is continue it till the next meeting, which is, December 3rd. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Councilor Bounce.
And I just wanted to validate for staff that you wanted the distance from the closest sidewalk.
Yeah, and any alternatives such as what the vice
Alternative.
chair was talking about, because I do recall we were pretty creative. We once had a developer on the boulevard, and I forget the parcel exactly. It wasn't practical and, along his stretch of the boulevard, so he put sidewalk in the next stretch down. So there must be something in the ordinance that allows us to do that, and I couldn't find it right now to save my life. So we have a motion by Counselor Bounds. Is there a second to the Counselor Bounds
Second,
motion? All right. Is there any discussion or any question for the staff on this one? All right, sensing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, raising their hand, and opposed. And the motion is carried. So we'll see you next month, guys.
Thank you.
Sorry. Okay. So, here we go. I'm gonna start being the sidewalk Nazi again. We are at 9.8. This is Van Buren Road. It's a proposal to construct a 5,400 square foot barn with a tennis court in a wetland buffer. PL 2019-0129 CUP. We need a motion to accept. Is it in order and ready for acceptance?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the application is complete.
Okay. Do we have a motion to accept the application?
Is this PL 108?
2019-0129 CUP Van Buren.
Let's be sure. All right, so I'd make a motion that we accept PL 2019-0129 CUP Van Buren BL 278-307-13.
Motion by the vice chair. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Jenna. Any discussion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising the hand. Opposed? And that motion carries unanimously. This is let's see, Van Buren Road. We hear from the applicant.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Smith.
Steve Smith and Associates. I'm here tonight, I did not do the work on this project. I've been consulting for the owner, which is RE Closing LLC, which is Mr. Scott Everett. And Scott lives down off from
is it,
Van Buren?
no, Pogus Park Road.
Farm Park.
He has a house and his brother has a house down there, a residence down there. And the property that I'm here to talk with you tonight is a piece of property that lies between Van Buren Road and Nature's View. Across the street from Van Buren Road, where this lot is the Laconia Country Club, the golf course.
Yep.
And the property only has two sides, two abutters, and then the road. It abuts the Boston and Maine former railroad, which is now State of New Hampshire Rail and Transit. And it abuts Nature's View. And then again, across the street is Laconia Country Club, and there is another lot in the corner. The name escapes me, but it was on the abutters list. Bowler Engineering has done the work for Scott on this. This is a parcel of land that's a little over 7 acres of land area, 7.5 acres of land area. It has 855 feet of frontage along Van Buren Road. Problem with the lot is that out of the 7.5 acres of land area, there's only about 2 acres of upland area. And you do have some plans, or you're looking at some plans, I apologize. I can bring the board over if you would like me to do that, if that would help.
It looks like we have a location map, an area plan.
It's a 14-page document for
Right.
residential. Do you mind if I bring the board over?
Yeah, I can.
It's okay.
It'll be easier for me. I can talk better with my hands and plans.
Oops. There we go. I hate Apple.
Stop, I think.
Huh? I got it. I found it, I think.
What do you propose to build, a barn?
A barn and a tennis court.
What shows what we're doing?
I'm kind of old. I have to do it the old-fashioned way.
Let's see it. I get to a certain point and then it resizes itself. You know what I mean? And I can't zoom in.
Right.
I don't cook.
I'm going to put an existing conditions plan up to explain a little bit about the property before
Okay.
I get into what's happening here. And I've colored it. If you're colorblind, you're going to be in trouble because the colors aren't that different.
I'm just plain blind at this point, so.
Well, join the club, I am too. This is Van Buren. This is the country club property.
Yep.
There is another residence in this side, right in this corner. This is all of Nature's View, which is a cluster subdivision of like 60 homes. The 800 feet of frontage on Van Buren. This lower area, which would be the easterly side of the property, where this green line is all wetland. Above it, on the westerly side, this green area is all wetland. The only upland is right through here. There is a small piece of wetland here, and that's, I would say from my professional experience, is been created as a result of a culvert that crosses a road there. And that's why it's isolated. That's why it's a small piece. When you apply your 50-foot wetland buffer, which is my yellow line here, there's no way you can even get into the property, let alone develop in the upland area. And that's really what this is about. We're trying to, he wants to put a barn in here. He has a couple sizable boats, both he and his brother down on their residential property. He wants to put a tennis court in.
Okay.
I have tried to guide Bowler Engineering because they don't work a lot in this community. They're out of Massachusetts, and they didn't really understand the wetland standards and what we go through here in Laconia. And basically, based on my consulting with them, this is where we ended up being. They wanted the driveway down in this area here, and I told them they had to split the center, minimize the impact of the wetland as much as possible. They can't just go in and impact the wetland to build on, to do the best job they can with the minimum amount of impact, and I think they've done that with the driveway coming in.
I also requested that they beef up the landscaping on the south side or downhill side in this area here, where the disturbance to the buffer, and in this area here where the disturbance to the buffer because of the corner of the building in there. And they put together a fairly elaborate landscaping plan. I've taken this to the Conservation Commission, had a lengthy discussion with them. They have given it their blessing in terms of what we proposed and how we're handling the impacts to the wetland buffer. There will be no impacts to the wetland itself. It's wetland buffers that will be impacted. To minimize that, they are going to be putting a wall in, coming in on the lower side, and again, doing what they need to do the restoration in those areas of the wetland buffer that gets disturbed with some plantings that are wetland-friendly plantings that we would see in a wetland situation.
Right.
The only other thing that is going to happen on this, if we're successful in an approval, is that this is a very long sweeping curve, and in order to get some sight distance, we are going to have to do some trimming. And I explained that to the Conservation Commission, that we'd only trim what is necessary. There won't be any grubbing, any stumping, any derooting of the soils in those areas of the wetland areas or outside the wetland buffers. But there had to be some trimming to get proper sight distance as you enter the site. So this site cannot be built on without having a wetland buffer impact. It's impossible. We've looked at it in many ways. It just, you can't do it. I think they deserve to have reasonable use of their property and reasonable use of their upland. There is a sizable area, except for it's inside the property, and you have to go through that wetland buffer to get to it.
Okay.
So I'm requesting a conditional use permit for this use. And this use is allowed in the zone. I believe it meets all the standards. We've been through the review process with the TRC. Septic system has not been designed yet because there's no sense in designing it if we don't get a conditional use permit. We show its location. It will be on its own water and it's on its own sewer. There's no water available here, and the sewer would have to go through someone else's property, which we can't get an easement for, and quite a ways to a wetland to get to it. So that's why it's going to be on subsurface.
Okay.
With that, I'll pass it back to the chair and be happy to answer any questions I can.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Well, I think you're off the hook for now.
Good.
All right, so why don't we all hold a public hearing on this? I'll open the public hearing at 8:05. Are there any abutters here? Any members of the public? All right, we'll close the public hearing at 8:06. And staff.
Just like to point out to the board that I have a typo on the staff review for this one.
That's it, you're fired.
So I apologize, it's been.
That's right, I can't fire you.
Just so you know, but the application number should be PL 2019-0129 CUP, as opposed to the second two that's in there. But other than that, we have reviewed the application with Mr. Smith, and he has gone before the Conservation Commission, and I actually just walked the site yesterday. The contractor had called and they had delineated the wetlands, and he is absolutely accurate that there is, the one wetland that they're closest to was, when they come in the law, is right where there's some drainage, and that was man-made.
So you couldn't even find an access, it's basically landlocked by wetland buffer, right? It's basically landlocked by wetland buffer all the way around.
Correct.
Yeah. Well,
We can build in the upland, we just gotta get.
have you considered a heliport, because that,
I suppose they could fly in.
they could.
I'm not sure the neighbors would appreciate a.
I'm sure that might be a little bit.
Well, they have these silent ones now.
I haven't heard one.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was
Sorry.
it.
That was bad.
He is on top of it, isn't he?
That was bad.
So, the conservation did have one note that they would like on there, on our condition of approval, and that was to please minimize the amount of trees that would need to be cut within the wetland buffer to what is necessary, which we have added in there for their request. And then we also added in, that this is just for personal use only, just so that people are aware that this is a personal garage or barn.
Yes, I've explained it to
It's
the
not
client.
gonna be boat storage
It's not
for
gonna be
rental.
boat storage.
Right,
for-
I've
for
explained that
everybody
to the
else.
client right from the very
Jeez.
beginning.
And
We don't have enough, though. That's what he's.
so we just wanted to be very transparent that everybody knows that it's just for personal use.
Thank you for thinking about that.
Is that part of your conditions?
Yes,
Excuse me.
that's under, I2, I2B.
Yes, and we have no qualms with the conditions in the note that Rob has talked about. I've reviewed those.
Well, thank you. All right, what is the pleasure of the board?
Good use of the land, let them do it.
Bring it on, Mike.
Go for it.
I'll make a motion that we accept application PL 2019, approve application PL 2019-0129 CUP, wetland buffer, and let them construct the barn and tennis court.
All right, is there a second?
I'd second that.
So we have a motion by the secretary, seconded by the vice chair. Is there any discussion on this motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising the hand. Opposed? Approved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, as always, for your professional presentation. We're moving along to, this is just acceptance?
Yes.
All right, so just application acceptance on 10.1 PL 2019-0108 SP and 0115 CUP. Alternative parking at 903 Union Avenue. It's a proposal for alternative parking. That's redundant. Okay. Can we hear from the applicant?
The applicant is not here tonight. He only asked for the acceptance because it was, when he saw the agenda, he assumed it was going to be an exceptionally long meeting this evening, and it would be in his best interest to
We
hold
have
off
to
until
stay
December.
here.
They're just acceptances.
And it's
Yeah,
just
I'm-
acceptance.
That's okay. I'm sick, I shouldn't be here. I'm here for quorum purposes only.
We appreciate that very much.
Oh, good. Glad somebody finally said it. I've been fishing for that compliment all night. Is there a motion to accept?
What is the application for? I'm a little confused here.
It's,
Parking lot.
The applicant is just looking to build a parking lot.
So we're just gonna accept it tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
is this, the currently vacant lot at the corner of Walnut and,
It is.
Where is it?
and it's just gonna be a parking lot?
It's just going to
under
be
the current,
a plain parking lot.
Where is it?
At the corner of Walnut Street.
across from Irwin's.
Right across from Irwin Marine Drive.
Irwin's, right on Union Avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
It was an
Okay.
apartment building that burned. It's owned by Mr. Brouillard, I believe.
Okay. So, and we're just gonna accept it tonight and that's.
Yep, we're
Just
just-
accepting it.
Oh, public input.
Hello?
That piece of parcel that he's referring to right now abuts our property right up and back. And I just want to make sure that there's no hang-up.
Come on up, Tom. Come on up to the mic so we can hear that.
We're not having.
It's just
I know. I just want to hear from my friend, Mr. Brown.
Tom.
All we're voting on is whether
Thomas Brown.
to accept the application. We're not acting to approve it.
No, I just wanted to make a comment on this because it abuts our property. And this piece of parcel he's talking about on Walnut and Union Avenue comes right up to our line.
Sure.
Okay,
And if you haven't already, you will get a butter's notice.
we have, but I'm telling you, things work in strange ways. I'm just as a comment. A few years ago, one of the selectmen went around and they bought the option on all the property all the way around our field. We have a 2.8 acre field.
Right.
Then they came to me and they said, Tom, we've bought all the option on all the property. What do you want for the field? I said, the field isn't for sale. He said, what do you mean the field isn't for sale? Everything is for sale. No. And that's where it hung up. But I don't want the similar kind of a situation here where everybody assumes because this field hasn't had kids from Mechanic Street School playing baseball on it from 1944. And I don't want them to think, well, this is fine, we'll put it in a boat storage, or we'll put it in a parking, or we'll do this or do that. I think it's just it's a fine line here.
Well, sir, I think you better save your horse for the cart, because you're ahead of it right now. We're gonna take it up at a future meeting. The only thing that we have before us today is whether or not the application is in proper order.
Okay,
And,
fine.
and you come back the next meeting.
I'll be here.
If that's on the agenda, and you can tell us all about it. Appreciate it, though. Yes, I wasn't aware until you got up there that the back of this lot would have bought your property at the top of the hill, wouldn't it? Yeah,
Well, I have a paper here that
oh, understood.
shows the.
Tom, you don't have to show me paper, I believe
No,
you.
no, this is from the city of Laconia, and on the back of it shows the whole setup.
Oh, all right. Well, you come right up here and give it to me then.
I'm not trying to be a smart.
You're not. You never are. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Okay?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can I count on seeing you next month?
You better believe it.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown served as the moderator in Ward 6 for many, many years.
Yeah, well,
We miss you on Election Day.
well, I miss being there, but there comes a time.
It does, for all of us. Okay. So, do we have a motion to accept this application? Did we get a motion?
I don't know if we did.
All right. Does anybody
I
want
make
to?
a motion that we accept PL 2019-0108 SP 0115 CUP, alternate parking 903 Union Ave.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Jenna. Is there any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Brown.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Okay, 10.2, PL, is that an L? It's like PI.
BL.
PL 2019-0124 SU, 55 Bay Street / 6 Winnisquam Ave. It's a boundary line adjustment. And is it just for application acceptance?
Just for application acceptance. It's the same applicant as the one above it.
Ah, all right. Okay.
It is complete.
And it is complete. Do we have a motion to accept this application?
Make a motion, we accept PL 2019-0124 SU, 55 Bay Street, boundary line adjustment.
Is there a second? Second is, motion and seconded. Is there, any discussion? All those in favor say aye or raise their hand. And opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Interesting. And I know this property was, oh, he's doing a boundary line adjustment now. It was, an old shed and they tore it down and it's a
Right,
vacant
and
lot.
then
It's right
they-
across from Martell's.
Yep, and they had, they came in, I think, to the planning board last year, for boat storage.
Right.
I believe he is looking to amend that site plan once this boundary line has been completed.
So you're gonna have boat storage on Winnisquam Ave and make them park up on Union?
I will, as I lack his eloquence in describing said project, I will wait for him to describe it to you.
I'm waiting with bated breath. All right. Let's see, where are we? PL 2019-0122 CUP, 40 Carriage Lane, proposal to add a deck.
Correct.
He was here.
He
was
would,
here for conservation.
so he needed to go to Conservation Commission before he came to planning
I
board.
wondered why you hustled the poor man down the hall.
I realized when he said that, I'm like, oh, shoot, what was the address we just said?
So this is just application acceptance for him tonight?
Because now that he's finished Conservation Commission now, so.
Is he? Oh, good.
So I'm sure next month he'll be back here for public hearing.
Oh, I'm dying to hear about the deck, frankly. All right, is there a motion to accept,
I make a motion, we
40
accept
Carriage
PL
Lane.
2019-0122 CUP wetland buffer for 40 Carriage Lane.
all right, we have a motion to accept that application. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Delvecchio. Any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed? Another unanimous vote. You guys are on a roll. Okay, we have dispensed with the application acceptance. And under new business, we have what I've been waiting to hear all night. Someone's been waiting to present all night, 781 Union Avenue. This is a conceptual review, there'll be no action by the board tonight. And it's regarding the merger of 781 Union, the old Oddfellows block, with 27 Clinton, which is the cape behind it, I believe. To remove the structure on Clinton and construct a parking area, refurbish the first floor of the Oddfellows block is commercial space, second floor is the Opera. Did you mean to call it the Oprah House? Because you actually did call it the Oprah House. Somebody did. And the third floor is 2 residential units.
I'm gonna make a suggestion.
Sure.
This is a conceptual review, and, you know, it gives the applicant an opportunity to go back and develop more features and all that stuff. I don't feel comfortable doing a conceptual review with just 5 board members here. That's just my thought. I don't wanna I'm sorry I made Stephen Smith stick around for one of this, but I'm not comfortable that what we're gonna say tonight is going to be the final word on conceptual review. So I'm just a little uncomfortable about that. I'm just expressing my view
thought
on
of that.
this. It's like, you know, we've got 5 members. That's all we need. I mean, we've got enough. but
Well, we
I
don't need a
I'm not-
quorum, we don't need a quorum because we're not gonna be taking any further action on it tonight.
Well,
But I get your point, that,
it's not that we need a quorum, we're gonna take a vote, but we're going to be like, you know, telling the applicant, no, you gotta do this, or no, you gotta do that, or this is just fine, and, you know, next time we'll go around, we're,
perhaps, we could encourage the absent members to watch us on YouTube
Well, they have all
And-
the information too.
and email us, their comments and suggestions, rather than have the applicant come back and lose 30 days in the development.
Does the applicant ever come here often?
No.
Oh, yeah, Steve said, I've never seen him before.
I'm not sure if there's a timeline on this one, as they're looking to do, how fast they're looking to go on the project, and this is the first step to the conditional use permit.
So they might
for-
come back for another condition, another conceptual.
So they're they would be coming back for the actual conditional use permit for the performance zoning, should they?
are you gonna be, you're gonna be using the performance zoning.
Right.
I have to.
Provisions, and you can't get this done without some kind of performance zoning exceptions and.
Not even a chance.
And all that stuff, and I'm not opposed to that. I was an advocate for performance zoning I've been one for a while, so I want you to come in here with these kinds of applications, but I'm not comfortable just doing it with the current board. I'm not criticizing anybody or saying you
No,
can't
I
do it.
get
I'm
you.
just saying.
I better
So
withdraw
make
the
a
application I
motion,
filed
and
today.
if you have a second, then we'll put it to a vote.
Okay. I'll make the motion to table it, continue it.
To the December 3rd meeting?
Yeah.
All right, is there a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed?
Wait, do that again?
It's 2 and 3, I believe. So let's do it again, if you'd like. All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed?
I was slow.
Abstain? What are you?
So 3-4.
We can wait until December to hear it. If David feels more comfortable having more board members.
Okay,
My count was 3-2. That was
okay,
my count.
all right. So, the motion carries, and we're continued.
My apologies.
Yes, it would have been nice to bring this up earlier in the evening, I think.
Now, that's not my issue. I filed an application to the planning board that I'll withdraw tomorrow because we haven't got a lot of time, and they're over there working now to try to get this thing done. We have people that are gonna be moving in. We already got our administrative approval for the bottom floor.
Listen, you're preaching to the choir with me,
I
because I
understand.
live right
I
across the
understand.
street.
You can table it, that's up to you, that's your job, not mine. I'll tell my client, he has to wait a month. I am gonna leave these, I want you guys to take a look at the perspective, you can share it with the rest of your members. This project cannot be done without a conditional use permit under your development ordinance. And that can't happen without it. I would think that you have an investor that's gonna take a building that was built in the 1800s and restore it and not tell you they're gonna tear it down.
I'm all for the improvement, Steve.
Huh?
Believe me, I'm all for this improvement.
I understand that, I
I
understand that.
toured that building 25, 30 years ago and dreamed of that Oprah House.
It's very exciting,
It is.
Yeah.
very exciting.
So, and I agree with you, without performance zoning, there's no way, given the confines of the property and the square, to do it.
Well, I also don't think that the new urban commercial zone, that needs to be looked at, the setbacks, the way the setbacks are set up to figure setbacks, I've already looked at about 5 lots for people in the city, and none of them, can you do the calculations because of the way the lots are, and it just doesn't work.
So follow that up with staff.
We've talked about it, we've had a great discussion about all this, and there's no question about it. I mean,
That's new
it's a great-
too, and a lot of what we're trying to do is to make the city more development friendly.
Yeah, it's a great tool, and I think it's gonna be worthwhile, but we have to, like any new ordinance, there's always some issues and bugs with it.
Okay,
So, I'll be back
I will wait.
next month. Don't, well, we'll have to withdraw that application.
Is this all in our packet for tonight? Was it in the,
I didn't see that.
because I would love to see
The only
that,
problem is,
have that sent to me.
they're not showing the yellow building with the black stripe across there.
Oh, yeah, what'd you do with
Yeah,
He did a nice job with that.
Chaos
didn't
and Kindness isn't even
tore it
on there.
down. It's gone.
Well, the old folks don't make there either. The Village Apartments isn't there either. They weren't planning on tearing all that down.
Sorry. Yeah, it's beautiful concept.
Sunrise Towers ain't there.
Right, the towers is not there.
They're tearing all that down?
Huh?
All that's getting torn
No,
down?
no.
No.
It's just the building.
It's being relocated next to David's house.
Yeah.
But there's still,
Okay. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
there's another item still on the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Opera House conceptual.
Yeah, Forest.
No, they're under.
Oh, I see, okay.
Garfield Street.
Garfield Street,
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Garfield Street.
What'd I miss?
Oh, building, old business, I'm sorry, 12.1, 200 Garfield Street.
I thought he looked familiar.
Discussion with the board, all right? So that's Rob, I guess.
I thought we were settled on this, that as long as they were gonna pay, that they could do it. I thought that was the resolution, no?
So, the planning board, asked for DPW recommendations.
Yeah?
Not necessarily that any action be or not be taken. And so we have gotten those recommendations from Public Works.
Okay.
And, I don't know if you have the same packet, but I have a letter, from Wes Anderson here that he provided to us. And, there was, obviously, this is private and the city is not going to pay for any of it.
Yeah.
and there was a couple of recommendations as to recreating a curb line as outlined on the site plan that Wes Anderson provided, or to kind of repaint the an intersection line to provide a different turning radius.
I have a couple of pictures here if you want to pass them around. It's up to you. Of the intersection,
Sure.
the width of it. and,
Sure.
Yeah, I'll let you, I'll explain.
I have a Google Street View picture.
It's 40 feet wide.
Yep.
That's asphalt to asphalt, not fence to fence. And then the second one here, the road is 22 feet wide, and this is where I'm turning. I have
Oh, I see,
additional pictures
yeah.
if they want.
No, that should be quite sufficient.
So the purpose of the striping is to encourage the traffic to take,
Pull itself out.
To
to
pull itself
basically
out.
do a 90-degree turn.
Correct.
Pass it down.
A wider turn.
A wider turn, not necessarily 90. All right. What action does the board need to take on this? We've already,
The board has already approved the application as it is.
but the language was that it was gonna be reviewed by DPW.
The language was it was going to be reviewed by DPW.
All right.
So
Is
I-
the board satisfied that the condition that we stipulated to in our original vote was met? Really,
think
because
so.
that's the only issue, right?
I think so.
So you could accept it as that is complete. You could, the applicant is willing to repaint the line there on the side of the road. So you could amend your notice of action to reflect that, or you could take no further action.
And I think the record is, well, for the record, I'll say, I've been up there actually twice and paced it off and looked at it, and I think this proposal works, so, I don't think we need to take any further action other than to maybe ask that the minutes reflect the fact that we reviewed the input that we received from the Department of Public Works, and we're satisfied that the condition has been met.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say.
Wait a minute, wasn't there something about repainting the road? Wouldn't we have to put that in?
The Public Works recommended that they repaint the line to adjust so that traffic would be.
And that's all within the approvals as we stand right now. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to add that.
If you want to make the applicant repaint that line, we would have to amend that application to reflect that, but.
Isn't he willing to do that?
I'm willing to do it.
He's willing to do
There's
it.
no problem.
There- we can-
I don't think I can do it this fall because
Yeah.
they've stopped their stripe and they won't do it when it's
But I
real
don't-
cold, but I'll do it in the spring.
Yeah, and I don't think that's up, he's agreed, he's willing to do it, let him do it. It's got really nothing to do with us.
And what Wes said was,
You might be right.
fine, so we're not gonna spend any money, so.
Correct.
So nobody's moving the pole or
No.
You can
guardrails
repaint
or
it if you
anything.
want to.
Perfect, thank you.
And so,
There you go.
but we
I
do
will do
appreciate
it
you
because
sticking
to
around
make
and
everybody happy.
filling us in.
Good neighbor, I like that.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah,
Okay.
All right, thank you.
thanks.
Very good, Forrest.
Any other unfinished business?
I didn't see any.
No,
more, but then
luckily
again,
that
I
was the
jumped
last
right
item we
ahead.
had this evening.
I move to adjourn.
Second department report.
Any discussion on the motion? Sensing none, all those in favor signify by saying, hell yeah.
Clint, I'm gonna
Thank
leave
you all, thank you very much for
I'll leave
coming.
you with this.